got into a little bit of trouble. He was saying, saying the N-word all kind of ways.
Rub Joe Rogan from my brain as often as I can.
Well, let's just think about it for a little bit today and talk about it. So essentially, he is very liberal with his use. At least, let's just say, let me be correct. At one point, he was very liberal with his use of the N-word. And I think it was India Irie who actually posted a Instagram video of this dude basically 24 times on his actual show. This is not him and his boys, in the car on the way to the studio. This is after the cameras have started rolling, and it's just rolling off his mouth, out his mouth, like with, like he just don't care about it. Mm-hmm. So long story short, Spotify decided not to pull Joe Rogan. He's their $100 million man. They decided we're going to keep rolling with him. They ended up pulling about 70 of his shows. But specifically, Spotify CEO Daniel Ek said, "I do not believe that silencing Joe is the answer. Canceling voices is a slippery slope." Ek also said that he was committing an incremental investment of $100 million for the licensing, development, and marketing of music, artists and songwriters, and audio content from historically marginalized groups. You fast forward to today, 14 months later, Spotify has spent less than 10% of the money that they said they were going to, that they pledged on its creator equity fund. The initiative is behind schedule in hiring the 8-person staff. So it's like they're not even saying that we hired them and then we done laid off with the other layoffs, the 8-person staff. They ain't ever hired them in the first place. And so they're, so this fund is now suffering from shifting priorities.
Well, He said incremental, less than 10% is an increment.
It's an increment, right. He say what kind of increment? He's just an increment. So, I mean, they do this kind of shit all the time. Let's just, keep it a bean. It was a symbolic gesture to get Black folks not to leave Spotify.
It's very interesting that you say symbolic gesture, because I went back and listened to one of our episodes. Where, actually a couple of our episodes, trying to find where we talked about it, because I remember talking about it and I remember this actual quote. And Terrance, you said, I bet you this ain't nothing more than a symbolic gesture, because we getting kind of far removed from George Floyd. So this ain't George Floyd. This is Joe Rogan. And when that stuff blows over, it's going to be out.
Spotify ain't no different than everybody else. And to finish your thought on the fact that they haven't done anything and being behind in scheduling, at the beginning of the year, the fund had not completed its 2023 budget and had not determined its priority projects, according to a memo. And another fund intended to promote diversity in podcasts suffered after that business was hit by layoffs. So it's like y'all really was trying to sabotage this from jump so that you could point to it and say, we tried and it didn't work. See, we couldn't even get the budget together. And so it's just like,
we know what
I don't expect. Yeah, exactly. I never expected much from this, and yet they lived down to my expectations, as expected.
So when we talk about this kind of stuff, and this came up last week, I think it was our last story last week, and it's like, why do we got to make everything about race? Well, we ain't making it about race. It's about it. It's just the way that it is sometimes. Why do we keep bringing these things up? Or why are you poo-pooing this before it even happens? It's like you guys haven't even given an opportunity to get kicked off yet, and you're already talking negatively about it. And it just reminds me, I've actually been, going back and reading a lot of James Baldwin lately. And I hope I don't mess this quote up, but one of his more famous quotes, he says, "I cannot believe what you say because I see what you do." So when we talk about some of these stories, and it's like, it sounds like it's going to be good. It sounds like it's going to be, wow, this is really something that's going to be cool for, for the tech industry, particularly how it's going to affect Black and brown folks. And we say it, and it's like, it sounds nice, but however, when we lean back and we lean over to the side, and we're because we've seen this before, we've heard this song and dance before, and it's like, here it is. It's like, you had some heat because you was going to stick with the $100 million dude that was, you had to pull 70 of his shows down because of his use of language that your listeners don't like. And okay, well, let's give $100 million to people who he was offending.
Let's pledge $100 million.
Let's pledge
right.
$100 million.
And that wasn't even, and the bad part is that wasn't even a lot of money. You know what I mean? They paid Joe Rogan more than that. You know what I mean? As it turns out, his deal's worth like $200 million. So it's just like that money was a drop in the bucket, and y'all didn't even try. I mean, just from the jump, it says the streaming service lacked a well-structured, clear system for vetting and approving projects or allocating money. Ideas were pitched, but not often accepted. So y'all just never had any intention of trying to make this work in good faith. There was never any good faith effort to try to make this work. So it's just kind of like, I mean, I don't rock with Spotify like that anyway. So, I mean, forget y'all. But
I'm not picking on the University of Vermont. It is a fine institution. But if you say, you know what, we did everything we could do to try to find Black professionals that are coming out of the University of Vermont, then you're going to, it's kind of like you plan to fail.
Right.
The state has like, I think about 1%, and the university is like 0.8% African-Americans there. So if that's where you're going to look for people, what do you think you're going to find? This is a true story. My oldest daughter, when she was thinking about grad schools, they have a very, very good educational program at the University of Vermont. And she was talking to one of the Black, faculty. She talked to a Black faculty person, or I don't want to say but it was like she talked to a Black faculty person, but there was not a whole lot.
Probably the only one.
And they talked to, an actual Black grad student. And this is what got her, because everything was sounding really good. This is one of the best programs in the country. It's like, but you might have to go to Montreal to get your hair done. She's like, well, I gotta leave the country.
Never mind.
It's like, well, Montreal is a little closer. You can get there. It's easier to get there if you got a passport than going to Boston. And she's like, Vermont and Boston ain't close.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's the next place to get your hair done. Is that like
exactly? So, but if that's where you're going to look for us, then you're going to probably have some problems as compared to going to FAMU or NCAT or Tennessee State or wherever. So I just look at this as like, as you were saying, it's like, Terrance, it's like y'all put this together to fail. It's like you cannot convince me that you couldn't go find some Black artists. So it's like, let alone the podcasting part of it, which is what we really are into. You mean to tell me you couldn't find some Black artists that are singing and making music? You were struggling to actually find people to invest in. Mm-hmm. Come on.
Well, it sounds like they didn't beyond even not being able to find anybody to invest in. It sounds like they did not invest and be intentional about putting together the team that was supposed to make this thing work. Yeah. They didn't even get their employees together. And I'm sure there were probably Black employees lined up saying, we would love to, make up this team and be a part of this team and take this project on. If you giving us $100 million, we can go do something great with this money. But y'all didn't even try to do that, to even get to the point where people could pitch and creators could benefit from this money. So it's just like, miss me with this Spotify. Y'all whack.
So Spotify, when we look at your programs and stuff side-eyed, it's like, well, we can't believe what you say because we see what you do.
Because we see what you do.
Like that is not me. That is James Baldwin, but it's a heck of a quote. It's a heck of a quote.